Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 101 Talk with RUMSA. So, I'm Rickson, I'm your host for today's episode. And along with me, we have Miss Evelyn, our co host for this topic. So, our topic today would be on to how to handle feedback and criticisms. Now, I'm sure all of you would have known by now what are feedbacks and criticisms. In fact, this is something that we get on a daily basis. Feedback and criticisms we give out daily and we receive it daily. That's basically what we have for feedback and criticisms. I'll pass it over to Miss Evelyn for anything for her to add.
in Indeed, we face a lot of feedback or criticism from time to time, whether it's from our lecturers, our friends, or even from someone we don't know. It is good that we have this opportunity for me to share. Of course, this is just from what I know, all right? So, about how we can handle these feedbacks and criticisms that's been given to us in a daily basis.
All right. So thank you, Miss Evelyn, for that. So we'll move on to our first question of the day. Would be that oftentimes when we receive feedbacks, we may feel that it's a personal feedback. How do we not take these criticisms personally?
Okay, so first, take a step back and you can try to identify. It is important for you to identify or us to identify that whether this feedback or criticisms are they meant to help us or are they meant to put us down. Okay, so it is how can we identify this is firstly we can see who is this people that's giving us this feedback or criticisms. Okay, if it's someone, for example our lecturers or someone like our close friend who is giving us this type of feedback, it might mean that there's something that we can really do about this. Okay, so if you are not sure, you can also ask around between your close friends whether, oh, I received this feedback today or this criticism today. Do you think it's really a reflection of what's going on with my attitude or my behavior? Okay, is there something that you think perhaps I really have to change about this? If you notice that the feedback is coming from a not so healthy intention, right, such as shaming, like for example the person shame you, make you feel very shameful, or you felt that it's not very helpful, instead it makes you feel belittled, or it's something that is labeling. For example, you are a lazy person, you are very irresponsible, that sort of feedback could mean that it's not very healthy, and it might be helpful if you can try to take a step away from it and really check back whether do I really need to take this in. Try to take constructive feedback and try to not take in toxic feedback. Okay.
Okay, so basically from your explanation just now, the two keywords that we have for this will be the first thing is the constructive feedback, and the next one will be the not so healthy one, otherwise known as the toxic feedback.
That is more towards personal attack.
Following up from this question, with these two type of feedbacks, right? What would be the middle line between constructive feedbacks and this kind of toxic feedbacks?
So firstly, how do you feel when the person give you the feedback? Okay, do you feel like it is trying to put you down? Okay, if you notice that there's some element about this, and perhaps it is good for you to take a step back and not take it in. It's not a reflection of your behavior, but rather the other person. If the person is giving you the feedback in, you can sense from their tone and sense from what they are saying, and I believe you yourself have the ability to reflect on, okay, is this something that is trying to help me, or is this something that's not very helpful for me? You can choose. You have the choice whether you want to take it in or you don't want to take it in.
Alright, so just the way to differentiate between constructive feedback and toxic feedback would be like to look at the the tone that the person is giving you. So if, for example, it's like maybe in a very aggressive tone, so it may come some feedbacks or criticisms provided may not be what they actually meant from heart.
Yeah,
Is it?
how it is given.
So for my next one would be that, let's say, putting in the context that I'm a perfectionist, and oftentimes I may be defensive when people try to give me feedbacks or criticisms. What would be your advice for me? I'm thinking like, let's say I want to change and I want to, like, when people give me feedbacks, I want to try to accept it?
Firstly, recognize that you are human and you have flaws. And because of that, you have the ability to grow and you cannot be perfect all the time. So when there are people giving you feedback, you can feel sad about it, of course, because if you identify as a perfectionist, you will feel like, is it my problem? You can feel sad about it, okay, you can feel like disappointed, yet at the same time try to reflect whether, is this something that I want to learn from, or is this an opportunity for me to become better?
So yeah, actually, to be fair, I totally agree with what Miss Evelyn said. So even in for me myself, I have this mindset in me is that to not put our own standards on other people. So for example, would be that let's say I can finish this work in 1 week. This does not mean that someone else can also finish this work in 1 week. So for the last question. So sometimes as group leaders, we need to
Okay.
give out feedbacks to our teammates. What would be the most appropriate way for us to give out these feedbacks for them to not feel offended?
As you lead a group, there is some needs to communicate. There are some behaviors that are not very helpful for the team. It is important for the group leader to address it. It would be helpful if you do it on a one-to-one basis, face to face. Try to avoid texts or emails. Try to schedule a time. Talk to that person if you have time. There's something that I would like to discuss with you. Okay, and try to avoid words like "you always do this," "you never do this," because if we look it in a realistic perspective, there's only a behavior that people repeat more often, and it's not like they do it all the time. Give the person some time to be prepared as well, okay, rather than giving it directly and in front of everyone. It would The person would automatically shut down. If put yourself in their shoes lah. If it was you, you would also feel like offended. Ask them, okay, what's going on? Try to understand more before you give the feedback. Ask yourself, the feedback that you are giving in, is it to help them or is it to put them down? All right.
So it will always be good to like put others in our own shoes before giving out the feedback.
Yes.
I believe that this advice would be very useful for all of us because in university life, most of us are, involved in like group activities and group works. I think that should be the end for our topic today. Before we
Okay.
end, I'll pass it to Miss Evelyn for any final words if there's any.
Feedbacks and criticisms are sometimes opportunities for us to learn. Okay, try to take this as a chance for you to learn to improve yourself. Okay, and take it according to your own pace. If you are not ready, it's okay. Yeah, thank you for listening and hearing from us.
All right,
Okay,
so thank you everyone, and you will stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you.
thank you.